it was nuts. I mean, people were jumping out of the window. I mean, it was on a second story, and I kind of remember that show. It was probably like 92 or something like that. I was like, all right, this is the thing that it should always be, and there should be this energy. Even to this day, you know, when I play a show, I want this thing where like anything can happen, where things can go off. It's very much like first hit of a drug type of thing. That's the kind of thing that I'm still chasing.
Think so?
Start right off with it.
Try starting it the other way, just to hear it.
Okay.
Because I know how the other way starts.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Even going into the studio without songs and just sort of writing and just kind of going in and see what happens, and you got a couple of riffs. To me, like, all that shit should be done before you go in there. Turning the beat around and I don't even realize it. Turn this beat around.
I think some of the other takes were more exciting from where I was standing.
Really? I thought most of the other takes were completely fucked up. Had like a lot of fuck-ups in them. I played it different every single take, so I'm completely lost.
This is the take that has a fill that you like.
This is the take that I have a fill that I like?
Yeah, you said, I really like that fill, and so I wrote that down.
I've never done that before.
But I know, and that wasn't that the fill that you said that
I wanted to keep. What just
needs
happened?
to be a fill.
That
Okay. No problem.
that has to stay. I mean, it was an accident, but I like it.
And I'll do the edit here. That way, you know, you can do the bells and the.
Yeah, let's play along with the track we're keeping though, just so I have the tempo right.
Okay.
All right.
They're the hardest part for me of the whole thing. Just coming up with lyrics that you think are good. And, I mean, there's no real rule when it comes to it. Well, it used to be I'd write on bar napkins, you know, lyrics. And so, you know, you sock those away, and then when you're writing a record, you pull those out, and you look, and you sort of see what phrases can fit into your songs. And But now, you know, I just type shit into the phone and send it to myself.
Come on, you're digging out your car again. The chair left in the yard has another life again. Another February comes and goes. Another February snows and snows. Go on, go on. Your February comes again. The circle comes around. The bartenders are down. February comes again. Another February spare a dime. Another February slightly worse than January. Oh God, I lost the thread. That goddamn battery's dead. I can't kick your car. The heat's been turned off. The family unit tightens. You bounce another check. The dog's a nervous wreck. And I smell like a brewery. I'll measure up my misery. Another February scratch for food. Another February slightly worse than January. Love, lovin', 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 love, Another February belts are tightened, daddy's frightened. Another February, so much worse than January. Love, a little bit of lovin', 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 love.
Although I don't think we can use it unless it ends in an 8.
What?
It seems like every tempo that we've picked has ended in an 8.
But which one was 138?
I forget. But I know there's been a 128, this was 118.
Waves was 138.
Oh yeah?
He thinks, well, you tell it.
That number follows me around everywhere I go.
8?
138.
138.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He thinks it's a magical number.
I'll be someplace and, you know, just randomly I look up at a digital clock, it's 1:38. Like, it happens all the fucking time. I was actually at a meeting with the guy from Thai Drums, sat down at like a California pizza kitchen or something on the West Coast, and I look up and there's like this stained glass and it's covering a number outside. 138 is all I could see, and I went like that, and it went like 5876.
Right.
So like exactly where I sat, it says 138.
Right.
It was like Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick's like, you got to go play those numbers out of the roulette. 138 and play 12 also, and 3 hit immediately.
Really?
Yeah.
That's Stephen King shit, man.
Yeah.
This is a Blue Line train to downtown and Forest Park.
The only way I could figure out how to do it is to sort of figure out some way to sonically replace the bass player. I started to think, well, I know that there is an octave pedal, so let's figure out how to put the octave pedal into a bass amp, and then that will, you know, take care of the bass. But the problem with the octave pedals, especially then, is they didn't track very well. And then a friend of mine, he was like, well, hold on now, what if you take the signal and isolate it, so you just got the bottom 2 strings? I bought a really cheap guitar for like $100. It was this Ibanez guitar, and he stuck a bass pickup in there. So once we decided to do that, there was like a couple of years of experimenting. We kind of had to change the way we write songs. Most people would play like an open D chord. I couldn't do that anymore. Since the bass pickup was only under the E and the A, I had to make sure that the 5th fret was my open D. And I had to hold down the bass. You know, I had to, at all times, that was my thing. Like, got to hold down the bottom end. Can't let that go. Growing up, there was this Hendrix interview that I read, and how he would split the guitar up into, like, he would sort of look at it as like a band unto itself, or like an orchestra unto itself. So like the bottom strings were the bass, and you know the top 2 strings were the treble parts for the little melodies, and the middle 2 strings were changed the tonality of the chords. So it became this thing where, like, taking that idea and sort of applying it to the new guitar setup was very helpful, with something like High Five Motherfucker, where in the middle there's a section where we just break it down to just that one note, and then, you know, it kind of builds up. And so as it builds, you sort of see that theory in practice, where it kind of like, all right, let's put this note there, and let's put that note there, and then the bass comes in because you're putting in another note.
Okay, can you play that again then? Just so I can get this noting down, because it sounded kind of sloppy.
Yeah, it is sloppy.
Okay.
Climax is going to be on Don't Live a Life Untrue, Don't Live a Life Untrue. When that comes and repeats itself twice. The first time it'll be once, and then the second time it's twice. You kind of know, and then it'll be the end. Do 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 bong.
method to my madness here. Okay, so what if we just did a bunch of these parts without the transitions, then we do the transitions. So we just get these out of the way, then we only have to do these parts into a transition, and then we've got everything, right?
Okay. Or we could do this until you got that, and this until you got that.
The first couple labels that were into us, the guy came up to see us and he heard our demos and stuff, and he had no idea that we didn't have a bass player. So he was like, all right, I'm going to come to Chicago and see you. And then he showed up, and it was our first show without a bass player. And so there was like a lot of pressure to get it right. So this guy shows up, and he's kind of like, what happened to the bass player? I was like, well, we haven't had a bass player for a while, and we're not planning on getting one. I mean, my mind was made up. I knew that this was a good idea, and I knew that if nothing else, it would make us stand out. You know, I wasn't interested in just getting a bass player because everyone else was having a bass player. And I couldn't figure out why anyone else would want us to be like that. We were able to make a record that didn't belong on a major label. And we were able to walk into this studio and just kind of go, no, turn the vocals down, don't put that effect on the drums, don't do this. And sort of like do what we wanted and make it as noisy as we wanted and make it as unradio friendly as possible. And we did. I think Cynic basically lays down the groundwork for what we were about and what we would always be about. You know, that song is basically a mission statement.
So, when you were, you came in on that thing instead of...
Yeah, I'm wondering how I should come in. I don't know yet.
Just hit.
Just hit one. Or I could go.
Try that. Now, let's try it where you come in. That's not bad, Brian. It's pretty good. You like that better?
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
Okay. Cool.
For a while, like, our publicist sort of kept the reviews from us. And then we had this really disastrous interview with this guy, and he, like, really tried to pick us apart as, like, being this Nirvana ripoff. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here, you know? Like, you know, why is this guy doing this? And then, then I told our publicist, and she was like, yeah, some of the reviews aren't that good. And I was like, oh, really? Well, let me see those reviews. Oh, my God, you know, like, what the fuck? Somebody made a joke about the fact that I was wearing my dad's flannel coat on the back of the first record and compared me to a healthy Kurt Cobain who was probably married to Gloria Estefan. That was probably the funniest thing. my attitude was like, look, you know, I know that these critics might be done with what they think is grunge music, or our timing may not be the greatest, but I was like, if we can just stick around long enough, people will just, all this kind of stuff will fall away, and people will see us for who we are. You know, they don't have to like us, but then they can see us for who we are. And that kind of happened. So, like, once the second record came around, we started to get good reviews.
There's my cymbal right above my hi-hat. I nicked it going around the toms. I don't know if that's something you can pull out. That's the only thing on that take that's going to drive me crazy for the rest of my life.
I didn't feel like the record was everything I could do. Like, if I was going to die in a plane crash and people go, well, that's what he thought, and that's what he thought rock band should sound like, I'd be like, no, I needed another chance. I needed the second record to show you what I really think records should sound like. And I wouldn't be ashamed of, like, my pop side, and wouldn't be ashamed to get more experimental and put all these ideas into it. And I was also, like, really heavily influenced by Cheap Trick. When I look at Surrender, I think Surrender is one of the greatest pop songs ever written. And part of it being a great song is because of the lyric and because it tells a story. When Robin gets to the bit where he's like, we're all right, I kind of feel like for 1 second, even if it's some asshole next to me who I hated, I go, yeah, we are all right. And then the song will end and I'll hate the guy again. But that was a big thing for me. And I think I also learned that lesson going in with Bound for the Floor, where it was like, the lyric is just as much of a hook as the melody. You know, what kind of made that song a hit, and I can't prove it, was that we used the word copacetic in it. And that a lot of people might not have known what the word copacetic meant, but they heard that word and it became this hook for them. It was nice to not have to work a day job. It was nice to be able to quit. And all I really wanted to do was play music. So being on tour as much as we were, it was great for me. It's like, holy shit, I'm playing in a place where I saw my first concert. You know, this is where I saw Robert Plant play, you know. And there's that rush where you're just like, you see that your life, there's many times in your life where things come full circle. But that was one of those times where you could actually recognize it happening. And I was able to sort of, you know, enjoy that moment. Like every single ounce of that moment I was able to enjoy it.
I like it the other way. So
You're completely reversing everything that you said during practice.
we didn't listen back to it at practice. If it was something we were playing and we didn't listen back, it
We've been
sounds.
living with the time that we've been living with these demos with that exact amount of time since last March.
But I'm saying it sounds better the other way. That's what I'm making that call. You can take it or leave it. If this is correct, go with it. I'm just saying the other way sounds more correct to me.
We can always, we've got the option. We don't have to
Yeah.
decide right now.
We don't have to.
Okay.
Right. I'm just saying it to me. It's more pleasant to my ear the other way
Okay.
than that
I
way.
just want you to acknowledge that you have changed your mind. I just want you to be aware of that.
I'm saying
Can you acknowledge that you changed your mind?
I'm saying it sounds better.
Can you acknowledge that you changed your mind today since you did during practice?
No. It's not that I changed my mind. I'm just saying listening to them both
You haven't changed
side
your
by
mind.
side, listening
You said 3 during practice. and
listening
then
to them both side by side. We never had a recording of the other way, did we? Listening to them side
No.
by side, the other way sounds
No.
better.
But we were rehearsing.
Maybe rehearsing it felt good, but that sounds right.
Okay. So you've changed your mind.
I'm not changing my mind. I'm
You
saying
have
the other
changed
way
your mind.
sounds. The other way sounds better.
Okay.
They both work. The
Yes.
other way sounds better.
Wait,
I'm gonna go get a Diet Pepsi before we.
Brian, I need you to listen to this.
I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go grab a Diet Pepsi.
and that's what we would do.
Right.
We would keep building it, building it.
Yeah. All right. So, what are we listening to?
Nothing.
All right. In the future, if I'm in there and I'm looking at you for a lead, some sort of answer, don't just stare at me. Go like, make some sort of gesture like, not yet, or, because obviously...
I gave you the lead at the end when I was going to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I kept ending early or going over, because I wasn't getting any response from you. So I'm just saying...
I would have given you the response at the end when it comes.
Well,
but if
but
you
once
stop,
it happens,
if you
too
stop
late.
before I get the chance to do it, then what's the point of giving you a...
Because it looked like you looked at me, like you're like looking at me like, are we ending?
You gave me that look, and I was like, no.
You didn't go no. You
I didn't shake my head, but I didn't go yes. So if you're waiting for a nod, you're gonna have to wait for the nod.
But you're gonna have.
Am I supposed to give you a look? Not yet.
You could. That's what I was saying. You can talk into the microphone. You can say not yet, or you can.
I know I can talk to the
yeah.
microphone.
So I mean, if I'm looking for a lead, give it to me, because otherwise we're just gonna be going through this shit. I mean, constantly like this the rest of this session, and it's gonna be really uncomfortable. So next, let's do the country song. Get that out of the way.
There's all these rules for country music, and it's like, don't do this or else fuck you, you're not country. Or, you look at modern country and it's like these bullshit songs that are like for, bullshit people, people who don't like music or something, it has nothing to do with what, country music used to be. But yet there's still all these rules, you've gotta, wear a cowboy hat, you gotta dress like a fuckface, and you've got to say Obama's the devil. When you put a country song on a rock record, people freak out and they're just like, how dare you put a country song on a rock record, and will make a rock fan super conservative, and that's what I find fascinating about it.
These feet were made for walking, but I can't walk in boots of broken glass. And baby, these times are made for talking, so I won't answer questions that you won't ask.
I want to get the stuff out of the way that I'm more confident with than something that's going to take a whole day and waste our first day or second day.
All right. Yeah.
Knock out everything.
Okay.
And then
I just don't want you to get thinking that that's a song that might not happen. Okay?
No, I understand that you're gonna make it happen one way or another. So, but I just don't want it to take too much time and then me get frustrated and be like, fuck it, I'm done for the day.
Yeah, I don't want you to do that either. So we'll do these songs, and then we'll work on that song and the segues afterwards.
Scraps to crumbs, times are up, but man, this time you'll suffer. Well, I say hallelujah, I'm above. Well, I'll say hallelujah, we're all bones.
It's good?
Yeah.
You like it?
No. But I mean, this wasn't
This
really
could be the one.
No, it's definitely not the one. But I mean, every record has a song that I just don't get, and this is one of them.
Well, I'm trying to get you to muster just a little bit of enthusiasm. I don't want you to.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
But what you played.
Oh no! I'm totally fine with either take.
Okay.
Either take is perfectly fine by me.
Cool. I'll make you a believer. It's just not yet. Don't worry about it.
All right.
There's kind of no way to really explain to Brian or show Brian what I'm thinking. And so sometimes we'll get tunes where he's like, what the fuck is this? You know, and then he won't like it until, you know, later. It'll grow on him. Like with Here Comes the Zoo, it's like, you know, once we were done with the main recording, he's like, all right, I'm going home. I don't have to go to mixing. You know, just send it to me when it's done, because he wants to get to hear it with fresh ears. And I was like, yeah, you know, let's make a record that's better, you know, and the idea to make a record that was better was to make Pack Up the Cats.
Well, alright! Oh yeah!
On As Good as Dead, it's a loose concept record, but you sort of have to connect the dots. And with Pack Up the Cats, I wanted us to do the dot connecting and sort of like have it be sort of this story and this thing where, you know, you get a typical rise and fall type of thing. And it's, you know, kind of like a sequel to As Good as Dead. Where As Good as Dead is this record about being stuck in a small town and going nowhere. Pack Up the Cats is sort of about somebody who moves out of a small town and into the city and what happens to that person. So I started, like, you know, looking towards people who had made concept records. So we talked to Todd Rundgren for a little bit. He had made Skylarking, and I sort of explained my idea of how I wanted songs to sort of morph into each other, and you'd be thinking you'd listening to one song, and all of a sudden it turns into another. And, you know, that's something that I got from Pink Floyd, but it's also something I got from, you know, Tribe Called Quest. So it was this idea that I was kind of obsessed with. And then I was listening to the radio one day, and Killer Queen came on, and I was like, fuck, this is probably the greatest production job of all time. And when I heard that, and I was just like, fuck, it should be Roy Thomas Baker. He was a guy who worked with, like, the greatest singers of all time, like Robin Zander and Freddie Mercury. But he also worked with, you know, one of the worst singers in rock, Vince Neil. So I figured I could fit somewhere in that spectrum. Here's a guy who made, like, high art, but he also made low art. And I wanted to see him work. I wanted to learn from him. And Roy kicked my ass. He kicked it all over the place. And it was like, you know, I remember doing vocals and thinking, like, I nailed that vocal. And I come out, he's like, no, do it again. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. That was the first time that there's not one single thing on that record that I don't like. You know, like, I felt like everything I ever wanted to do on a record, I did on that record. I mean, I remember getting mixes back from As Good as Dead, and there's a, like, this song, No Problem. And I always, now I listen to it, it's fine. But for years, I couldn't listen to it because I didn't think the guitar was loud enough, you know. I was really, really happy with it. I was really proud of it. And all the songs fit together. You know, a band putting out a really tuneful concept record about cats was the worst thing you could do, you know, when, you know, you got bands like Limp Bizkit, and we just didn't fit into any of that stuff.
Baby,
from where I was standing, the guy had been unhappy for a long time. So, none of that is a surprise. And, there was this thing where, we were on tour for Pack at the Cats, and the label was sold, and a lot of the people that we were working with were fired, and they were gone. And so, there was these new people, and we don't know them as well, and then the support starts to dwindle, and we're playing these shows that, aren't as well attended as I'm sure Joe would have liked, and then he starts to kind of, it's like, well, we need to get off the road and get back in the studio. And that's something I'd heard before, but this time, he was kind of like talking about maybe we should dress a certain way and change the way we look. And then he had said this thing is like, we should write another Bound for the Floor. And that was the first time where I was kind of like, this guy might not be wanting to be in this band anymore. This is not the band that, he wants to be in. You needed a drummer that would be interesting to look at, as well as somebody who would beat the fuck out of shit. And that's what Joe did. And the only drummer that I knew of that could do that was Brian. My whole thing was, would people accept the band with a new drummer? And I think the basic response was that, yeah, they're fine with it. And then people that just wouldn't accept it, they were kind of like, all right, we don't accept it. And then, and then there's a lot of people that got into the band when Brian started being in the band. The songs are the songs, and it still rocks. And, they're both rocking drummers. I mean, it was a different record, and there was a lot of pressure because it was a new drummer. I just remember kind of not really enjoying myself during that record. I wasn't in the moment of what I think that record should have been. At the time, I just had too much fucking pressure, and it wasn't easy.
The songs you know, gonna get you the show. You really wanna go? Pass yourself, I take your frozen. Hey, what you want? I'll steal your cutting shoes. Tornado coming, I'll fix your little dog too.
Where you start going, get it out of neutral, make yourself useful, get it out. When you start doing that, just completely cut out and just stop. And
Cool.
I'll take it through the end.
Okay.
Because I think maybe my problem is I'm playing to him, I'm trying to play to myself, I'm trying to play to the click, and I'm like, there's just too much going on in there.
Stop playing guitar.
Just completely stop everything. When you start
after
doing during our performance out there.
I can't. It's gonna take me a while, but I can't do it. I can program it to where it changes. Like at this bar, it like goes up to 2 BPMs. At this bar, it goes up to BPMs. You know what I mean? I can do it in Pro Tools like that, but it would take me a while to like go through and map out exactly where the tempo
And then
should
we
change.
would we just record it in sections?
Or we could record it in sections, but I can't map it out.
Seems like a big pain in the ass, doesn't it?
It's a pain in the
Considering
ass.
that's just
No,
natural.
yeah, it is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Like, do we want to like just say fuck it and just go with something a little looser, or do we want to get real clinical about it and have the gradual tempo shifts, but actually have it to a click.
What do you want to do?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure at this point. I don't know if it's necessary to like get real clinical about it. You know?
I mean, it's not like we have sequencing or anything on
Right.
top of this.
Exactly.
Or at least I don't think we do.
At least not yet.
And then we really did become an indie band from that point on. Like, we put out an EP, the No Fun EP, pretty quickly. I think it's one of the best things that we've ever done. And I was really into it, and it kind of like sort of pointed us in this new direction. At that point, I didn't want to make big records anymore. And I kind of knew that our time for like being on the radio was over anyway. So, you know, what was the point of trying to compete with like these really commercial sounding records? So it was from that point on that we got into this thing where like we'd make a record and then we'd bring it to a label. And then, you know, say with whatever happened to PJ Souls, like we brought it to this label, Studio E, and then by the time that record was done with its release and everything and touring behind it, they were out of business. That was the most experimental record that we'd ever made up until that point. And to this point, that is still the most experimental record we ever made. And I was just into like different sounds for everything, like different sounds for the drums, different sounds for the guitars, the vocals. Like every song had to have a different sound. And when you listen to it now, like especially if you put it on headphones, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a pretty cool headphone record. With Hallelujah, I'm a Bum, I mean, there's a situation where I had everything pretty well mapped out. I had written all the songs on pieces of paper, on different colored paper, and I put them all on the floor of the control room, sort of as, so you could see how each song would connect with each other, what songs had to be in what keys, and make sure the tempos matched.
And then you can cut that and paste
Right.
that as many times
Then
as you
play
want.
the riff shorter, and then go to the turnaround, and then
Yeah, I'm already completely lost.
okay, play the riff, go to the turnaround, play the riff, go to the turnaround.
And then we'll just stop. And
And
then
then
we can pick up from there.
Play the riff again and go to the turnaround. Okay, but the third time you go to the turnaround, do the ding, boom, and stop, and then go call, like we're gonna go into Paddy Considine.
I'm totally lost.
It's a lot to process. You know, you could ask a question and I go, well, this is here because of this reason and that reason, and it connects to this song and that song, and it's on here at this point in time in the record because later on we're going to do this. And, you know, people's eyes would glaze over. They'd be like, you know, I just asked one question. Why are you giving me 6 answers?
Stop. Come.
The record started with the title. I mean, right away, I knew what the record was going to be just based on that title. And if you listen to the last song on 12 Angry Months, it's called Hand to Mouth, and it's sort of about, you know, all these things that we think are important don't really add up to much, if, you know, when you've got nothing. And so that song, Hand to Mouth, directly leads into Hallelujah, I'm a Bum, which is exactly about all those kind of real life and death issues, like, you know, people being on the streets and homeless, and people worrying about how they're going to keep a roof over their family's head, you know, worrying about if they're going to be able to start the car to get to work in the morning, you know, just all these issues that, you know, if they hear you bitching about a breakup with your girlfriend, they're like, fuck off, I've got real problems. So that's what Hallelujah, I'm a Bum was supposed to be about, real fucking problems. So in a way, we're into this situation where records have relationships to each other. So you've gone past the idea of a concept record. You go further out into the whole idea of a body of work and how each record relates to the next one.
it's no faster than what you did on the demo.
Yeah, try 138. That's a good number.
Oh no! We should just do the whole record in 138. Guitar is too cheeseball, you know? At the intro?
No.
No?
No way.
I mean, it sounds like Triumph or something.
No
like
way,
that.
man.
What does it sound like?
It sounds like arena rock. It sounds.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds cheeseball.
It sounds really good. It's great.
Oh. Sounds like.
It sounds like something off Pack of the Cats.
No, it doesn't. It sounds like something off Winds of Change.
No, I like it.
Have you heard Magic Power recently?
I don't even know what that is.
By Triumph?
No.
Listen to it. That's
That
exactly what it
Triumph was one
sounds
of
like.
the cool ones.
Oh, now you like Triumph?
Well, they were cooler than all that other hair metal band stuff that was on MTV at the time.
Well, they were Canadian. They were descendants of Rush.
Right. So that makes it okay. So, it might be a big Canadian hit. You never know. It wasn't bad. All right. Good enough that we can lay other shit on top of it and it'll be fine for a B-side? Alright. You think we're just wasting your time? That's what you're thinking. Here, we learned that song for you just to impress you. I don't give a shit.